1140 The Fan.
Talkin Money!
The action continues now with Talkin Money and Jeff Tarbell.
Yeah, that's some good music for a Saturday morning. Thank you, Chris. I'm Colin Grail, sitting with Monica Reyes. We're sitting in for a vacationing Jeff Tarbell. If you have any questions on retirement planning, investment planning, what the weather's going to do, what the stock market's going to do, give us a call, 339-1140, or you can text us at 44140, 441140. We had a quiz question right before the break of who is the owner of Mega Upload? And we have a winner. Patty is our winner. And being the rookie here in the big chair, I forgot to tell everybody what they're going to win. But thanks for calling in anyways, Patty. We'll send you out 2 tickets to IMAX, and appreciate that. So the answer is Kim.com. Guy named Kim Schmitz legally changed his last name to .com. And he owns a company that basically does counterfeit downloads. He's in New Zealand. He was just arrested and put in jail in his 25,000 square foot mansion in Auckland, New Zealand. And so that's who that is. So had a few callers. I guess everybody else's Google isn't working out there this morning. So okay. We have a question from Edie on line 1. Hi, Edie. Good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to check with you. I am retired, and I have an IRA that I'm required to take a minimum distribution every year. I'm wondering, what is the tax consequence to convert that IRA to a Roth IRA?
Okay, that's a great question. Well, if you're already 70 and a half, you're still required to take that required distribution out for the current year.
Right.
But you are in a position where you can convert it to a Roth IRA. And what that means, you can convert a part of it or you can convert all of it. And whatever portion you convert, that is also reportable on your tax return in the year that you do the conversion. So let's say you've got $20,000 in your IRA. You'd prefer not to take a little bit of money out every year as you're required to do. You'd rather just convert it to a Roth IRA and let it grow tax-free and use it later or pass it on to your family. If you want to do the whole thing, you'd have to take that $20,000 IRA, report it on your tax return this year, pay the taxes. Then it would be what's considered a conversion Roth IRA. Any future growth above the $20,000 would be tax-free to either you or your heirs when they go ahead and pull it out.
So if I report it on my tax return, it's taxed at my regular, whatever would be the regular
Yes.
percentage.
Yes, it's taxed at your ordinary tax rate. And the other thing you have to be careful on, so I think, this usually involves a little bit of advice, depending on your overall financial situation. Some people are not in a position where they're paying they're paying the maximum tax on Social Security. So sometimes by creating a little extra income from, say, a Roth conversion, that can also cause your Social Security to get taxed when maybe you wouldn't have had to do that. So there's a few calculations that need to be done. But essentially, yes, you convert it, you put it on your tax return, you pay your tax this year at ordinary tax rates, and now it's in a Roth IRA, growing tax-free from this point on. Okay. All right. Thank you, Edie. Good question, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Colin, a follow-up to Edie's question. You mentioned the Social Security getting pulled over, potentially taxed when it wasn't before. What if you go through the exercise, you like the idea, I want to grow my money tax-free, and oops, Social Security becomes taxed. I've got this $20,000 on my tax return that wasn't there before. I don't have the money to pay for this. Do people have an opportunity to undo that? Can they fix that? That they might see a high number on their tax return that just doesn't sit well.
Well, you're right. You make a decision to convert today. You go through the year. You find out, that was a great idea when I heard Colin on the radio. But now that I've thought about it for 6 months, that doesn't seem like such a great idea anymore. Where's that money going to come from to pay the tax or a variety of other things? If you do that, you actually have until October of next year. So if you did if you did a conversion from IRA to Roth IRA during 2012, you actually have until October of 2013 to change your mind and reverse it, or what we call undo it. Our technical term is undo, but the IRS actually calls it recharacterization. So you have a big window of time, and so there's some very strategic times when you would think of either converting or not converting. So, for instance, let's say I was thinking of converting, but I'm not. When should I do this? Well, I don't know. But the ideal time, if you can look backwards, is always when the market's at its lowest. You want to convert it at its lowest value so you pay the least amount of tax. So some people will kind of hang out and wait for one of these inevitable dips in the market and then pull the trigger on their conversion to be able to have it at a lower value when they do the conversion. The opposite can also be true. Let's say you convert it and then the market goes down later and you actually have to pay tax on a number that's higher than the account's actually worth. Some people make a decision at that point to actually undo it and put it back and then reconsider reconverting it at a later date. And there's several rules around how you do that. But it's actually a very, very flexible program. It's a decision you can make. And if you make that today, you literally have 20 months to change your mind, which is very, very rare in investment and tax world that you have that big of a window to make a change. So it's a great follow-up question, Monica.
Thank you.
All right. So looks like we have another question from Kevin. You there, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. How can I help you?
Well, I was wondering why. I mean, you guys are talking about people putting money in an IRA, and you're going to get taxed on it once you pull that money out. Why would people put money in an IRA versus a Roth IRA? What's the difference?
Okay, that's a great question.
Kevin, the difference between the traditional IRA and then the Roth IRA, for some folks out there, it does make sense to do the traditional. You may get a tax deduction during the tax year that you put that money in. If that helps from a taxable income standpoint, you're absolutely right. That would make more sense. For the folks that want to have that money grow tax-free in the Roth IRA, you're using your after-tax dollars. So you're not going to get that tax benefit today. That's going to be something for you down the line in the Roth IRA as it grows over a couple, 10, 15, 20 years. So you're absolutely right. There's situations where it's good to do one, better to do another. And so we always suggest, talking to folks like Colin and I to make sure that it fits your situation, appropriately.
And I also find out, we can talk about long-term, we can think long-term, but people have a hard time turning down today's tax deduction. Mm-hmm. When they go to their accountant and their accountant says, if you put it into a regular IRA, you can put in $5,000. It's going to save you $1,500 in tax today. People like that.
For somebody, I mean, I'm 30, so for somebody who's trying to set up a long-term goal like that, which one would be more beneficial?
Obviously, there's a variety of factors to consider, but I can guarantee you 30 years from now, if you were to start funding a Roth IRA and you have a big old bucket of money that's tax-free that you can get into however you want with no tax consequences, you're going to be a happy retiree. So right. If you can afford to bite the bullet and pay your taxes today, ignore the deduction and get that money growing tax-free, time is the power, is the true friend of tax-free growth. If you can add money and get it to grow over 30 years, that's an awesome. You'll be very happy, and you will have forgotten the taxes you might have paid in the past. Now, let me also add there are limits to. There are rules around how much money you can make and still put money into a Roth IRA. So there are some limits to pay attention to, but there's a variety of ways to help get that to allow that to happen, either through a Roth IRA or. If your employer has a 401k, they may also have what's called the Roth 401k option that allows you to make that same decision through your company's retirement plan. All right.
So, I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, between my wife and I, we make probably $250,000 a year between the two of us, and we do contribute into a 401k now. So, on those requirements on a Roth IRA, what are those requirements?
Well, you would be over the income limit to be able to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, probably. And do you have regular IRAs? Do you already have IRA accounts set up?
Unless it's in our 401k, then no.
Okay. That actually opens up some really cool planning options for you because they changed some laws a few years ago, and it makes us financial advisors have to get creative and go through a couple steps. But you can you can't contribute straight to a Roth IRA. What you can do is contribute to a non-deductible traditional IRA, and then immediately process a conversion to a Roth IRA. Sounds a little complicated. It's a two-step process, but ultimately, through working through your advisor or somebody like us, you can get money into a Roth IRA. And if you and your wife each want to do that, you can each do $5,000, so $10,000 a year, and you can get that growing tax-free. And you may also have that same option through your 401k, so you could do both, or you could do one or the other.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate you taking my call.
All right, thanks
Kevin.
And time's flying by here. It's time to take another break. We have one more quiz question.
And one more prize, right, Colin?
One more, that's right. Keep me on track. We're doing the prize. So let's see. What did I do with number 3? I've got a third quiz question around here somewhere. Here we go. So for those of you who'd like to call in, number is 339-1140, or you can text in your answer at 441140. And the quiz question to win some Jim Boy's Tacos. Jim Boy's Tacos. Let's see if that gets the phone ringing. Is in 2012, up through yesterday, what is the number one performing U.S. stock? Number one performing U.S. stock for 2012. And we'll be right back.